morning, everybody. I would like to welcome to the second day of the Waste Summit Cambodia 2021. It's great to see so many interested participants online today. Allow me to introduce myself briefly. My name is Martin Krummeck. I'm delegate of the German Foreign Chamber Network abroad in Myanmar. Our office in Yangon is in charge of 3 countries, namely Myanmar, Laos, and Cambodia. As regional coordinator for Cambodia, I'm pleased to be here with you today, together with my colleague Leah Bergmann. Yesterday, we had already the chance to listen to very urgent topics, not only relevant for Cambodia, rather more for the whole society on Earth. I was very impressed to listen to the presentations about marine pollution and the threat of microplastic in the food circle. But on the other hand, I was also excited to see how simple it can be to avoid plastic waste entering the oceans. Furthermore, it was good to hear from the representative of the Ministry of Environment that the Cambodian government is now aware of the health risks caused by the hazardous waste of batteries, and that the government is now working on a battery waste management system for Cambodia. Another interesting speaker pointed out that there is still space for improvement in education and curriculum development concerning waste knowledge. Building capacity in higher education to shape sustainable policies in waste management was her suggestion. And that brings us actually to our topic today. We all, as consumers, can have the most significant impact on waste reduction. We all can easily do our part and contribute towards a better environment. And that is what the Waste Summit Cambodia aims at, bringing together problem solvers, decision makers, startups, social enterprises, and society. We want to learn, share, and connect with other people for a better, less waste polluted future. Cambodia's waste management grid is still developing, as not all cities are covered yet with waste collection, and those who are not efficient yet. Rapid economic growth, urbanization, and lack of environmental awareness are the key factors for the rising amounts of municipal solid waste. The waste is polluting the land, rivers, ocean, and air in this country every minute. And it's even getting harder. During the COVID-19 pandemic, our customer behavior has changed as well. Restaurants are mostly closed, and takeaway or delivery service are the only options for us. But if you're buying a meal to take away, you can expect to get the food in a plastic box. The plastic set of cutlery is added as well, and you put in the bag also your cup of plastic with a plastic straw. So it seems quite clear that in average, a Cambodian household uses 12 plastic bags a day. Almost half of them will be burned later, and the rest ends up in the sea or in landfills. Phnom Penh alone already produces 3,000 tons of garbage every day. But luckily, many startups are coming along with new innovative ideas to counteract. Today we have 4 speakers with us to discuss the topic of sustainable packaging in the food and beverage sector. It is my pleasure to welcome a very international panel of speakers. Our first presenter, Dr. Jérôme Fakhry, Senior Regional Officer of Global Green Growth Institute. He will give us an overview of plastic waste management options in Cambodia. I haven't seen him. Oh, yes, here he is. Okay. Secondly, we have Mrs. Sandy Kotan, Director of Only One Planet Cambodia. She will introduce to us applications of sustainable packaging in the food and beverage sector. And from the business side, on the ground, our third speaker, Dr. Irina Chakraborty, Director of Bonlai Vegan Restaurant, will share experiences and best practice sustainable packaging solutions from her restaurant perspective. And our fourth speaker, Mr. Kazuya Kubota, Country Director of Pizza for Peace, will provide insights of the approach of zero waste design application in their business model. I'm sure that the presentations will be mind-opening for us all and offer suggestions on how we can change our behavior and contribute to a better world. With no further delay, let me hand over the microphone to our first speaker, Dr. Jérôme Fakhry. Please, the screen is yours.
Good morning, everyone from the quarantine hotel in Cambodia. So let me share my screen. Can you please confirm that you see my slides and that you can hear me well? Okay, great. So yes, I will kind of give an overview of some plastic waste management options in Cambodia. So I work for the Global Green Growth Institute. I'm a regional waste management officer, so I mostly work in Cambodia, and I've kind of branched out to other Mekong countries as well. And the way the GGGI works is we're an intergovernmental organization governed by our member countries, and we provide advice to our member countries, and Cambodia was one of our founding members. So we have a team based at various ministries supporting the government on policy and investment interventions. And I focus on solid waste and wastewater management. Let me just minimize that. So I'm sure you've seen these types of data yesterday, so I won't go too much into details. I will first give an overview of some data on waste management in Cambodia and worldwide, and then I will take you through some of the projects that GGI has been working on in the last 3-4 years in Cambodia. So this data is a little bit old, but it will give you a good idea to start with. So in 2017, there was 33 million tons of waste generated in Cambodia. So it's all waste, municipal waste, industrial waste, and so on. Of these, 4.24 million tons was municipal solid waste. So it's the waste that you generate in your household, basically, that mostly ends up in landfill. And you see the data in the purple box. So waste disposal to municipal landfill has increased from 300,000 tons per year in 2004 to 1.5 million tons in 2017. And now it's probably close to 2 million. So two takeaways there. It's like the trend is upwards. And the second one is like only about half of the waste makes it to the landfill. The other half gets away through leakage, either burning or dumping on the side of the road. So because the focus today is on plastic waste, you see the pie chart on the right gives you an indication of the waste characteristics in Cambodia. So the vast majority is organic waste, but in 2015, you had about 21% of plastic, and it's probably higher now. So it's still a very, very significant portion of the waste that remains in the environment. And obviously it's the one that doesn't degrade. And obviously Cambodia is also becoming, it's developing really quickly. People have more buying power. And as we've observed in many other countries, with more buying power, people consume more and then generate more waste. So it's really important to tackle these issues to make sure that it doesn't become a growing problem. Another interesting statistic, so every year, 8 million tons of plastic reaches the ocean worldwide. So that's equivalent to a full garbage truck every minute. And most of it is from just 10 major rivers. Out of these ones, 8 are in Asia, and that includes the Mekong. So the Mekong is a big contributor of marine plastic pollution. And the way it happens is if you look at the Cambodian photos at the bottom, so a lot of plastic waste end up in canals when it rains, and then the canals brings the waste to the rivers, and the rivers bring the waste to the sea. That's the middle photo. And the photo on the right is what happens often in more rural areas where there's no waste collection services. So people burn the rubbish or dump it. So there's a little bit of room for improvement. So you all know the waste hierarchy. Obviously, the absolute priority is to reduce and reuse waste. So minimization, so stop using single-use items like straws and cups and plastic bags. So this is really important, but I know that the next 3 speakers will talk about reducing and reuse. So I won't talk much about it. I will focus more at the lower end of the hierarchy, which is recycling and energy recovery, which is where some of our projects have been focusing on. So recycling, to be able to recycle plastic, you need to have clean plastic. So once it makes it to the main garbage bag and it's mixed with food, it's mixed with nappies or anything, it becomes contaminated, and then you need to clean it to separate it, and it becomes way too expensive to efficiently recycle. So what you need is to first source separate it and then transport it directly to a recycling facility. That's the only way to do it in Cambodia. So we've been focusing on source separation, collection and transport, and recycling of plastics. And also once the plastic is mixed, so once you've got municipal waste that is mixed, and it becomes very difficult to extract the resources, although we must acknowledge that the HI do a great job in Cambodia and more broadly in Asia at recovering recyclable materials. But the soft plastics, the contaminated plastics, the polystyrene boxes that have very low recycling value, you can still recover the energy from it. And we've also been working on an MBT project that I will talk about. So quickly, so this is how we work. So as I said, we advise the government. We first started with policy development in 2014, 2015, developing strategic plans for the sustainable development of cities. And from that, we did some various projects, and I will talk about three that focus on waste. One in Batamang that focuses on source separation and recycling of plastic waste. One that we're currently doing in KEP, which is focusing on institutional arrangements. And one that we're advising the government on in Phnom Penh to develop a mechanical and biological treatment facility. So first on to Batamang. So as I said, source separation of recyclables is very important. So we supported the municipal government in Batamang for 2 years, and we more or less finished in 2020, but we're still kind of providing on and off advice. And the idea was to work on the source separation and collection of both plastic waste and organic waste. But obviously today we'll only talk about plastic waste. So we supported schools and markets to install collection banks for plastic straws, plastic bottles, plastic bags. And then we set up, we supported the government to help the schools and set up a strong link with waste collectors and recyclers, so that those plastic waste could be directly collected by the recyclers. And doing it this way, they provide a small fee to the schools and the market cleaners, which is a nice incentive. Obviously with the schools, and also there was a lot of education and awareness raising campaigns that happened at both schools and markets. So obviously schools have been a bit slower because COVID hit. So we basically installed the equipment in February, March 2020, and then COVID hit. But still, they've got the equipment, they can use it. So the first part of the project was to provide the infrastructure and set up the mechanisms for collecting the plastics and ensuring it doesn't get mixed. The next one was to work on the regulatory mechanisms. So any country in the world that has a relatively efficient waste management system always have an enforcement, a regulatory branch as well. So it's very important to have the carrots, which is the most important, so the incentives, and also the stick. So just to basically incentivize people who have no interest in doing the right thing to do the right thing. So Cambodia has the sub-decree 113, which covers waste management in cities, which is very comprehensive. So for example, it prohibits the burning of waste in the open. It prohibits throwing rubbish in the streets or in the rivers. And also it obliges people to recycle. So obviously, it takes time and education and infrastructure to be able to achieve these, but at least around the burning and the throwing away, that it should be a level of compliance and enforcement. And what the sub-decree lacked is the actual mechanisms to implement this. So we supported the municipality with developing a DECA that enables them and the actual mechanism to do it, to enable the municipality to issue fines to residents for non-compliance with the sub-decree. So the intention of the municipality is obviously not to go around and fine everyone. It's just more of a red flag to start saying, people, listen, there is a regulation. If you don't comply, eventually you may be fined. So at the moment, it's more like a warning to kind of incentivize the non-compliers to do the right thing. And also they developed a municipal decision to delegate authority to the commune chiefs, to the Sangat leaders, on education, monitoring, and also issuing fines. So one, again, a big agenda item for the government is decentralization. And around solid waste, they've done a great job in decentralizing to municipalities, but obviously Sangats are even closer to the community. So it's important that they have a clear acknowledged role. So we hope that through that decision and that mechanism, it will improve education efforts in the community. And as I said, education and awareness raising was an important part. Batamang is actually quite lucky because they do have some recyclers, which is one of the reasons we chose that city. So they, in particular, they've got one recycler that recycles plastic bags. So they actually pay the waste pickers at the landfill to collect plastic bags. Then they bring them back to their facility. They wash it, dry it, and convert them back into pellets to be used as raw material for making new products. So that's one way of diverting plastic from landfill. Obviously, the margins are very tight, so their processing was very inefficient. So they receive financial support from UNIDO to actually install more recent and better equipment to be able to process their waste more efficiently. And from our side, we had them structuring their business, help them with business strategy, financial modeling, and also training on financial systems, and also improve links with waste suppliers, for example, the schools I was talking about. And also we're working on product diversification. So at the moment, there's a new plastic waste facility that is currently being set up in near the landfill in Batamang. So it's making use of the material recovery facility that was built with support from ADB. And one of the businesses is setting up a plastic recycling facility that will basically use crushed glass and plastic to make tiles and bricks. So the idea is that the glass gets crushed to replace sand, and then the plastic is melted to replace clay, and then you bind it together in a mold, and you make roof tiles or floor tiles. And that setup has been proven to work quite well in many countries. So in the photos below, so the one on the left is taken from the internet. It's just an example of what it could look like. And the middle photo is the equipment actually arriving at the facility. So there's still some work to do around their business model, because, for example, electricity is expensive. You can imagine that when you melt plastic, it has a cost. So we still have to find ways to really make it work, but we're pretty confident that this business will be able to function quite well and provide an additional solution to the plastic management in Batamang, and then can be replicated in other parts of the country. The second project that we're working on in KEP, it's currently ongoing, and I must admit it's been slowed down a little bit by the COVID situation. So one issue with waste management in Cambodia is that the waste doesn't make it to the landfill or the recycling center because there's the lack of it's not financially sustainable. So something that must be acknowledged, that waste management is expensive, so it costs money. Everybody has to contribute to make it work, even if it's just small money. The second issue is that while the decentralization to municipalities has worked really well, some municipalities are still not fully set up to be able to operate independently. So especially when it comes to managing contract or managing finances. So the objective of the project is for the KEP municipality to independently manage solid waste and wastewater infrastructure and operations in a transparent and financially sustainable manner. So what we're doing with them is we're supporting them with setting up a sanitation and waste authority within the municipality. So we're covering both solid waste and wastewater. So that waste authority will be able to directly manage contracts. They will be responsible for all infrastructures and operations when it comes to solid waste. They will also be responsible for overseeing the collection of fees, and then working possibly with the private sector to make sure that there's a proper financially sustainable model for collecting waste. And the idea is to progressively reach 100% collection. So go from 50% to 100% collection. So progressively go from collection at the city center, hotels, restaurants, out to the less serviced areas in the outer part of KEP. Obviously, they would also be responsible for developing regulations. So building on the work that has been done in Batamang, They will also do obviously education and awareness raising, and then depending on how much money is in the system, they will investigate ways to improve recovery of materials such as recycling. So that's just a snapshot of one of the surveys we did, which I found quite interesting. So we surveyed 600 people in all areas of KEP, and we found that the majority, so 57%, was willing to pay a fee, and 30% of the respondents were not willing to pay. So, but when we talked to people, there still was a strong sentiment that if good service is provided, a large portion of the 30% would be willing to pay. But they say that because a lot of times they don't know, so they say we don't produce waste because they've never seen a waste collection system in their area, so they just take their waste in their field and burn it. So there's a lack of awareness that burning plastic is a risk to the environment and to their health. So if a lot of awareness raising is done, and if a proper system is set up, we strongly believe that there's a strong willingness to pay. So this is work in progress, but we also surveyed, by the way, we also surveyed people, tourists going to the little islands, Rabbit Island, Kotan on the willingness to pay an additional fee to on top of the boat to be able to provide sustainable waste and wastewater management on the island. And the survey response was like 95% of people said yes. So there is a willingness, but it's the vicious circle that the service has to be good. Otherwise, people won't pay, but if the people don't pay, the service can't be good. So there's efforts that need to be done at both ends, and there's really a strong leadership that needs to be provided by municipalities. And this is what we're supporting them to do in both Batamang and KEP. Finally, I'll briefly touch on an investment opportunity for an MBT in Phnom Penh. So this is one we've been advising the government, so particularly Ministry of Environment and the Phnom Penh Capital Hall for the last 2 years. So they, as was said during the introduction, there's 3,000 tons of waste that is currently sent to landfill in Phnom Penh. That means that a lot more gets generated because the collection rate is probably about 60%. So what can be done with that waste? So obviously there's all what's been talked about before for KEP and Batamang around diverting source separation of waste for recycling. There's all the reuse and avoidance options that will be talked about in the next talks. But whether you want it or not, you will still end up with a lot of mixed waste at the end. So it's a very long process to reach a very good level of recycling. And if you look at the more advanced countries, when it comes to recycling, like Germany, for example, they still generate waste that either has to go to landfill or gets incinerated. So what we what we found during during a pre-feasibility study is that there's a good viable business model to set up a mechanical and biological treatment facility, so that we call MBT. And basically, it's combining mechanical processing of waste with a biological treatment, such as composting or anaerobic digestion, which I won't talk about because it's not the focus today. So the mechanical processing is to recover recyclable materials. So whatever the waste pickers haven't found, there's still a little bit, always the small pieces of metal, for example, that can be recovered through magnets. It helps remove the contaminants and also like e-waste, like glass, stones, anything that doesn't burn. Also remove the moisture, because the moisture content is around 70% in waste in Phnom Penh. So that then increases the calorific value. And the main output from that separated dry matter is what we call refuse-derived fuel, RDF. And that RDF can replace coal in cement kilns. So I won't give too much details because I think later today there's a couple of talks, including by Chipmunk on this topic. So they will give a lot more details than I will. But the idea is that the RDF is then used. RDF is basically mixed plastics. So plastics, polystyrene boxes, cups, straws, paper, anything that burns but is too contaminated to be recycled. And when it's used to replace coal, it takes advantage of the process in the cement kilns, which burns the waste at very, very high temperature, up to 1500 degrees, which really destroys all the contaminants. And then the remaining ash, which sometimes contains contaminants, get incorporated into the clinker, into the cement, which means that there's effectively zero waste coming out of it. So as I said, we're still working on the government on moving forward with that. We think that at 1,000 tons per day scale, there's potential for setting up a plant in Cambodia with a small gate fee, which is important. In Cambodia, you need a gate fee to be able to operate an efficient recycling center. And also the incentive for the cement kilns, besides being greener, is that they actually save money. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. So just to finish, so these are some examples of what can be done when you recycle waste. So you can turn it into asphalt, which is done in some countries like Australia, for example. You can turn it into carpet or insulation products, or furniture like tables and chairs pretty easily. And then the bottom right one is that's an example of RDF. So this can then be used as coal replacement. So if you replace coal in Cambodia, it means that you avoid importing coal from Indonesia, for example. So you think of the transport costs and the emissions from transporting to Indonesia. From Indonesia, you think of digging up the coal, processing the coal. So there's a lot of environmental gains by replacing coal by RDF. And final slides, some lesson learned. So the first one is around behavior change. So this is a very, very long-term process. So what we find in Batamang, for example, is that it started working really well in the markets. For example, there was a lot of plastic being collected in schools also, but then in 2020, COVID hit, and when we came back, people had forgotten already. So it's ongoing. It's a generational change. So when you do a 2-year project, don't expect that everything will be solved in 2 years. The municipality people, community leaders really have to take over, and it has to be an ongoing effort to have a long-term change in attitude. So that's a 20-year project. It's not a 2-year project. It's really important to keep that in mind. The second one is that guidelines and regulations and strategies are really useful, obviously, but they need to be implemented. And sometimes more effort has to be done to make sure that there are mechanisms to implement these things and that there are leaders to actually do it on the ground. One that I touched before is the need for gate fee at waste management facilities. So it's easy to think that you can set up a recycling facility and you'll make a lot of money, but it's not true. If you look at recycling facilities in Europe, for example, they all operate with a very high gate fee. In fact, this is how they make most of their money. So if you set up a facility and you actually have to pay to accept the waste, it will never work. It will always have to be sustained by external funding, unless it's very high value materials like copper, for example. But if it's mixed plastics, you can set up small facilities. But if you really want big efficient facilities, same with MBT, RDF is very important to have a gate fee. So yeah, and as I said, yeah, so waste management is expensive. So the system cannot work without money. So even collection, transport, there is a need for money. So it's very important to look at the overall chain and the business model to make sure that it can work. Otherwise, as I said, it's the vicious circle of the waste collection provider doesn't get enough money, have really bad trucks that break down. Therefore, the service is bad, and then people refuse to pay. So efforts need to be done by everyone and structured efforts. So that's it for me. Thank you very much. I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll pass it on to the next speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Jérôme, for your interesting opening presentation and sharing with us your activities in Cambodia. I would like to invite the participants to engage later on in our Q&A session. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat or later on address the speaker directly in the Q&A session. Now let us move on to the second speaker. I would like to welcome Ms. Sandy Kotan, Director of Only One Planet Cambodia. She will introduce to us applications of sustainable packaging in the food and beverage sector. Please, Sandy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Let me share my screen. I can't get to, Sorry. Okay. Is that, can everybody see that?
Yes, it's working.
Okay. Okay. As we know, we all know that plastic is a problem, both for the planet, but also for our health. Just as a quick introduction, Only One Planet is an impact-driven, financially self-sustainable enterprise with a overarching goal of reducing our reliance on single-use plastic in Cambodia. Money we make, we put back into different programs and initiatives to that end. This is something that was posted just this week. This is the waste generated just from one family in a quarantine hotel. It was 10 days. It was a family of 4, and they only requested 2 meals a day. So, I mean, we know that COVID is definitely having an impact, but this amount really blew my mind. Here's another example of waste that I think we just don't need to do. Those pairs went 17,000 kilometers from Argentina to Thailand, and then almost 14,000 kilometers from Thailand to the East Coast, USA, where it was eaten, where it was sold, for a total of almost 31,000 kilometers. And in order to ship that food all of that way, it really needs to be packed in plastic, which again, I think is part of the problem in the way we developed, and something we hope to circumvent in Cambodia is the idea of buying local. This is another post from a couple of months ago. It was somebody who basically collected all of the excess things that he got in his food deliveries and then wanted to basically give them away. He didn't want to throw them away, but he started a really interesting conversation. And what happened was a lot of the commenters on this post were basically posting pictures of their own collections, both of cutlery, condiments, all kinds of things. So yeah, in the F&B industry, more is not necessarily better. In July, we posted a poll in Phnom Penh Minimalist and Facebook group, and the question was, eco-packaging. Would you select to pay more on a delivery app for eco-packaging? And 185 people responded, and this is what they said. I won't go through it line by line, but the result was that 93.5% of the respondents basically wanted to see a move to eco-packaging. And 67% of the respondents said they would be willing to pay extra in order for that to happen. Many places are doing it already. That's maybe later up in Siem Reap, and they have done an eco surcharge for their packaging for quite a while. I know that some of the food delivery apps allow venues to raise their prices slightly on their apps to compensate for the cost of packaging and hopefully eco packaging. I like that this happens, but I would wish it would be more open so consumers actually could see it and was more transparent. Num24 already has a filter on their app where you can select and just, it will give you a list of places that only use environmentally friendly packaging. They also have a little tick box that will allow you to opt out of receiving utensils. So things like this are happening, and we really want to support it. So our best use in-house, our suggestions is, number one, just don't give plastic to dine-in customers. There's no reason for it. We know that a lot of people are quite engaged with having their logo on a plastic cup, which is harder to get on a reusable. But that logo isn't going to look so nice when it's on the street or in the landfill or degrading 10 years, 50 years, 100 years from now. So the first and foremost thing we always say is don't give plastic to dine-in customers. It's just unnecessary. The second thing is don't force customers to buy plastic water. And I call it plastic water because we know that most of the bottled water has microplastics, and you are actually eating plastic when you're drinking the water. Filtered water on request is not so expensive. It builds goodwill. And I really object to the modern idea that we have to pay for water. It didn't used to be that way. Straws are an easy one. But again, it's something that people just automatically give you. You have to specifically say, I don't want, which we really hope we can turn that around. It is happening a bit. But if people do ask, then give them an eco option. Paper, there's grass straws, there's noodle straws, there's all kinds of things that will decompose as opposed to plastic. Very few people actually need a straw. It's just a convenience that we've gotten used to. The other thing is to incentivize customers to reduce plastic. We highly encourage people, and again, I'm seeing more and more people that they don't talk about it enough. I kind of run across them. I'm now seeing people who give a discount for basically slowing down and drinking your coffee in a reusable, or if you bring your own cup or takeaway container. I mean, it's kind of only fair because you're saving money by not having to provide those things. There we go. More best practice in-house. Again, that coming from the pairs, buy local as much as you possibly can. Let those pairs go away. Produce that travels extensively is almost always packaged in plastic to make it last longer. We don't need to package in plastic. We're buying from the local market. This is a hard one to working with suppliers for plastic-free deliveries. And it's really harder for smaller venues that don't have really that big of a buying power. But if enough people actually got together and said, we don't want 50 bags with our vegetable delivery every day. Some people have had success by providing bins, putting their name on them somehow and saying, this is how I want you to deliver my vegetables every day. And again, it's an ongoing battle, but worth it. As Jérôme mentioned, the vast majority of stuff that goes to a landfill is food waste. And it contaminates recyclables. So there's a lot of options available here. You can compost on site, which I know is probably difficult to do for many places for a lot of reasons, hygiene. But you can also separate and donate your food waste to a local farmer. They can be used for pig food, sometimes chicken food, or arrange to have your food waste sent to a local composter like Rui Riek. Most importantly, though, is to train your staff. If your staff doesn't understand why you are doing and how important it is, it's really hard to maintain consistency to have your efforts maintained on a long-term basis. And as I talk to people, this seems to be the #1 reason, they come in a restaurant or a facility will put in green policies. And they'll train at the beginning, but 3 or 4 months later, things start to slide. It's a consistent, ongoing training to get commitment from your employees to do this. So best practice in takeaway products. #1 is reusable. Right now in Cambodia, there's nothing available, but I know of 2 different places that are looking into, I think in the West, they call them food loop or something, but being able to inject reusable containers into the delivery process. And hopefully something will come of that soon. But that is, again, zero waste is the best possible thing we can do. And natural products are the second. I show photographs here from, the first one is from Thai Street food kitchen in Siem Reap. And the second picture is 11-1 Kitchen in Toltempong. It does take time and commitment, but the results are stunning, and they both places get quite a good following because they do this. It's 100% biodegradable, locally sourced. There's nothing not to like about it. Of course, wet foods can be a challenge, really hot foods, but for the foods that you can, it's worth it. The products I sell, I say are basically the third best. It's sugarcane bagasse, 100% wood cutlery, which means they are compostable in about 45 days in my home compost. But again, when you start getting into manufactured products, you got to be a little careful. I know there are products on the market now that have a certain percentage of plastic, but won't tell you that. But that makes them not so great. But in a restaurant situation, I mean, it's easy to cut down on cutlery, excessive condiments. Pay attention to that NOM24 filter. When I order, I know I always say, no cutlery. Probably 50% of the time, I still get it. I don't want condiments. I'm eating at home. So I have condiments. I have my own things. Paper bags instead of plastic. Java Cafe had come up with a really kind of interesting delivery concept in which they were using pieces of cloth and wrapping it up. And then you could return the cloth to them for free coffees so they could reuse them. So there are options as opposed to plastic. Understanding them, getting them, it's just a matter of talking together and getting it. But we know that being eco-friendly is tricky. Sales of eco products have increased by 73% in the past 10, 12 years. But a recent study found that more than 95% of eco products were guilty of greenwashing to some extent. Producers know that consumers might choose their product over another if it appears to be green. So some of them just do a matter of adding some clip art and calling it a day. The words eco-friendly, bio, natural, pure, they have no legal meaning whatsoever. Anybody can put this on their product, and there's no recourse. There's no legal recourse. It's not illegal to do that. The two that I really object to are BPA free and biodegradable. BPA free because yes, they've removed the BPA, but they've replaced it with other very, very similar chemicals that they're now learning might actually be more harmful than BPA. So I really object to BPA free as a marketing concept. And biodegradable, again, almost everything on the planet is degradable given enough time. Adding bio to it just means that it's assisted by organisms. So the only thing that really matters is if it is certified biodegradable or compostable. I mean, this is biodegradable. My stainless steel water bottle, or not biodegradable because it probably won't have, it's degradable. So we really have to be careful, and we try to raise awareness about what all of the marketing techniques and all the things that are out there. We're really not a fan of bioplastic, at least not in its current form. Most of it is made from starch. It has to be industrially composted. We don't have those facilities in Cambodia. And even in Europe, a lot of the industrial composting facilities are turning away bioplastic now because it just causes too much problems. They're worse in a landfill because as they do start to break down into microplastics, they off-gas methane, which is 20 times stronger than CO2. So in Cambodia, at least, we try to say just stay away from them. Anything with a plastic content and a little bit of bio content, just not a fan of. This one has been gaining a lot of traction lately, and there's a lot of misinformation because most of these paper boxes are lined in plastic. which makes them non-biodegradable. A lot of people are selling them as wax lined, and that could be true, but it's very difficult to tell the difference between a wax and plastic lining. And even if it was wax lined, it is more than likely paraffin wax, which is made from petrochemicals. And I've read different things about whether paraffin is biodegradable or not, but I think the bottom line is being made from petrochemicals, even if it breaks down, it will still leave chemicals in its wake. Aluminum boxes. Again, aluminum is highly recyclable in itself as a can, but when you put food in it, it goes to landfill. It's too, as Jérôme mentioned earlier, it's too difficult to clean, to extract the food waste. So it's most of the time not. And most of them either have a plastic or a plastic lined lid. And a lot of people say, I use plastic because we can reuse them. And technically that's true. But especially these cheaper grades of plastic, they break down a lot faster. They crack, they break, they have a limited reuse life. And they also will leach chemicals a lot faster than more durable plastics. So the health part is something we really try to talk a lot about. About recyclable, a lot of people are saying, oh, I use this because it's recyclable, but I think we all know that recycling for the most part is broken, especially in the F&B where food contamination stops a lot of recycling. In Cambodia, we encourage all of the homes and businesses to clean and separate the normal things, the plastic water bottles, drinks cans, aluminum cans, metal cans. And we encourage them to give them to the Ajai. I kind of object to selling to Ajai because, in my opinion, they are providing a valuable service. So for me to charge them to do that seems backwards, but everybody to their own. Glass is another matter. It can last up to 1 million years in a landfill. And the amount of glass that we use is just staggering. I can't imagine the actual bulk that's sitting in our landfills now. It can be easily sanitized and reused. It can be recycled into new glass, although not anywhere in Asia that I'm aware of, or crushed into sand, as Jérôme mentioned, for a number of things. So we're planning to do something about this. Please join the Phnom Penh Glass Recycling Facebook page. We'll be announcing our program soon, but the idea is to establish a network of glass drop-off points throughout the city. So you'll find one that's near you. It will be cheaper than before since it's not having to be sent to Siem Reap. Gaia is in Phnom Penh now and we'll be able to send locally. So we hope to divert a lot of landfill in this program. For us personally, we've been in business for about 36 months, and in that time, we've replaced 1.7 million styrofoam boxes with compostable boxes, 875,000 plastic cutlery with wood cutlery, about 250,000 plastic straws with edible noodle straws. And with the silicone line, we figure about 3 million different pieces of single-use plastic with reusables. All told, that's about 5.75 million pieces of single-use plastic that were diverted from our landfills and waterways. And we say this because we just want to illustrate that individual actions do add up. And we highly encourage, and we try to do a lot to help people do these three things. Support your staff by giving them the information, the motivation about why waste reduction is important. Support your clients by giving them options. And each other, most importantly. We share information about what works, what doesn't, with different foods, with different vendors, what is out there, then it's only beneficial to everyone. And I'm giving just small little resources that we maintain at the bottom. Act, just have a look honestly at your operation and reduce single-use plastic as much as you can. Refuse to accept the norm of excessive plastic. I know it's a bit of a hassle to buck the trend, but it's worth it. Reuse what you can. The Phnom Penh minimalist and free cycle page, I'm always amazed at the things that people say, I don't want this anymore. And the people who step up and say, I can use it for something. So it keeps it out of the landfill. Again, share information, resources, recycle what is already here or things that cannot be eliminated just yet, and learn about the problem, both locally and globally. And again, we have a number of resources. We have a library of articles, videos, dealing with environmental topics. And you can search it by your main concern: climate change, plastic waste, plastic packaging. But the biggest thing is to basically communicate to your customers. I'm amazed at how many people are taking action, but don't really talk about it that much. The more we talk about it, the more it becomes a norm, the more people will ask for it from other venues. So to me, communication to your customers is really key, and to your staff. We would be happy to help, or Little Green Spark or other organizations out there, to help your staff set up a program, monitor, and then say, look, this is what we've done. We've kept X number of bottles out of the landfill. We've diverted X number of food waste. And I think Kazu has done that very well, and I can't wait to hear what his results are. And again, with the green community in general, the more we talk, the more we share information, experience, the better and stronger we'll all be. So we believe that if we work together, we can contribute to make Cambodia a healthier, cleaner, more balanced place. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sandy. Yes, maybe you can stop sharing your screen. I think we got already an idea, you know, what can we do as consumers here, and how we can actually support the waste reduction. But now I would like to hear, you know, how the restaurants and the business are actually working, and what is actually their idea, and what is their inspiration to support the environment. And our next speaker is Dr. Irina Chakraborty from a restaurant, Bonlai restaurant, yeah. And she will also explain us a little bit how she implements sustainable packaging in her business. Irina, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much, Martin. Hello, everybody. Let's get this share going. Okay, is that visible to everybody?
Yes, looks good.
Okay, great. So I'll give you a little bit of background about who we are and how we got here. So Bonlai began in 2019, so just over 2 years ago. And I had started the guest house YK Art House 2 years prior, so in 2017. So we had already had a business going at the location, and then we added the restaurant on top of that. And a little bit unusually, the whole project is coming from environmental angle, not because of my culinary background. And kind of the primary goal, especially of the restaurant, was to test out a lot of these concepts, but in a self-sustaining way, meaning we are trying to make money and not lose money on this, but it's not just about the profit margin. Excess funds get to trying new things and covering the costs of just a lot of the things that we try to do. So clearly the idea of the packaging options is within our ethos of having a self-sustaining eco business. So rather than starting out with using the cheapest available solution and then retrofitting something, we just avoid using harmful practices in the first place as much as possible. So it's a slightly different direction than I think a lot of businesses end up taking. So for example, in our case, I think Sandy just recently started stocking some options for us for iced coffees for takeaway. So until we had those available, we only did iced coffees for dine-in as a dine-in option. So basically, if we can't do it right, we don't do it. That's kind of our general ethos here, which allows us to kind of have a very different perspective, I think, compared to a lot of other places, because it's not cutting back, it's more like building up to something. So for example, actually one of the first things we did, this cage that you can see here. So earlier you saw we have a nice outdoor setting with a lot of leaves. And prior to me starting this business here, you know, all the leaves, of course, got packaged into plastic bags and taken away to a landfill, which is a little bit preposterous. And so instead, all we really needed was to have a space to put the leaves in. This, I think it's probably hard to tell from the photo, but I think the volume is like a half cubic meter, probably less than that. And it's enough to just compost basically all the leaves. And this is not any kind of complex composting process. The leaves just go on top and then the compost comes from the bottom. That's it. We don't need to mix it. There's plenty of air. We don't put any food waste here. So there's no smell, there are no rat issues, there's nothing. It's just a super simple solution. Which again, it's been nice to have the you know, kind of the time and space and opportunity to just try something like this. And our restaurant is vegan, which is, I think, quite important to the waste issue overall. So if you think about it, having a much shorter supply chain, so what I have just decided to call photosynthesis to table, you do end up reducing a lot of waste. So if you think about, there was an article, this photo that I included is from an article from The Guardian a couple of years ago. So up to 80% of plastic in the ocean is actually from fishing gear. I think there's some caveats about the size of the plastic and so on, but generally this is the finding that they were reporting on. I think it was a UN report. And so clearly, if you want to reduce that, eliminating fishing is a super straightforward, zero cost option from some perspectives. And then if you think about the fact that 40% of that fish is then turned into into farm animal feed, so animal feed for farm animals. Again, you're eliminating a lot of waste just by choosing what you're serving. So it's like, so for me, the vegan aspect of the business is very much an environmental choice as well. And it's also, there are definitely a lot of issues with waste and other things related to vegan food production as well. But it's kind of it's a rule of thumb for me. So you do, I think, eliminate a lot of issues by doing that. Of course, you don't eliminate palm oil issues or other problems, but a lot of issues do do get addressed by that. So our current packaging options for our regular menu, we basically use biodegradable options. So we use the bagasse, the sugarcane bagasse products, and the only thing that the only green, like, you know, admittedly greenwashed product that we use are the carrier bags, because of the basically the price would just push us over the edge at this point. So we are thinking about other options, other ways to do it, but we are using these not really degradable, not really a plant bags to package the food containers into for delivery. But the meal plan, which is probably more than half of our business, has been quite interesting. So for the meal plan, if you guys are not familiar with the concept, it's really been growing in the past couple of years, and especially during the pandemic. Now I'm seeing different restaurants offer this, you know, every couple of weeks a new restaurant decides to get into the meal plan game. So it's basically you sign up for some set amount of meals, and it's a changing menu. There's no set definition, but the idea is like you get the meals delivered to you. You're not ordering off the menu, but it's kind of a pre-made menu that's delivered to you. And it's addressing a lot of the decision fatigue that we're faced in daily lives. And at the same time, we have variety. So in our program, we don't really repeat the meals more than maybe once a month or so. So you don't have to decide what you're eating every day. You get a new meal or even 2 meals per day that are different and tasty and easy and delicious. And for our perspective as the restaurant, it's great for planning and packaging because people subscribe ahead of time, so we can really be prepared. Which is great also for waste reduction overall, and it's new challenges and opportunities for packaging, and this is where we've been able to try some interesting things. So we started with just the biodegradable single use. So we've been over a year, a year and a half perhaps. And we were lucky to already be familiar with Only One Planet's products and know them as a trustworthy and a transparent supplier, which is not the case with a lot of the suppliers that claim to have some kind of environmental benefits to their products. So this was really great. So we started out with that, and then we wanted to do a reusable option with a Tupperware style plastic. And the idea is that, we send the food in the containers, and then we pick up the containers, we wash the containers and use them again. Several issues here. The plastic, because we are, transporting, really scrubbing them, they break. Even well, obviously we didn't use the 1950s genuine Tupperware that was supposed to withstand everything, but the kind of the reusable plastic containers on the market, they don't really last as long as you'd think. And of course, maybe at home you can still use something a little bit chipped or cracked, but we can't really send that to customers anymore. And of course, the other issue was that even though you can see we have our nice little stickers, people do misplace them. They start using them for other things. So we're constantly having to replenish our stock, and it wasn't really a good option at the end for us. So we reinvented the wheel and started to use these 3-tier metal containers, just from the big market in Phnom Penh, from Orosai market. We have many of them, and we basically use them, and then small glass jars for any sauces or dressings or smoothies or anything else that we want to add to the meal. Okay. And oops, okay. Yeah, and it's I didn't manage to find enough photos in time, but we are able to package quite a lot of different things within the 3 tiers. So whether it's salads and breads and calzones and curries, it does work out. Or then we'll have like a dessert or something in the third tier. There's many different meal options, which has been good for us. And then we have a little, we put the customer's name on the tiffin as well, and then we have a twine and paper label with just for our logistics. And so that the customer knows what the content is. Yeah, so there's no plastic that we use in these except for the name label. And we add the label for kind of the repeat customers so that we can keep track of those more easily. So I'll just switch over here. Just to show a little cost comparison. So I did a little comparison with obviously some wild assumptions. Styrofoam boxes, single-use plastic, the biodegradable containers from Only One Planet, reusable plastic boxes style, and then the metal containers that we've settled on. And looking at the lifespan, the cost per use based on the cost of each unit, then handling time and admin time. This is relevant to, for example, tracking down the containers. In some cases, there's also a small deposit scheme that I'll explain in a second. Then labor costs related to the admin time. So then again, this is kind of a, very approximate comparison, but you can kind of see that actually our metal containers, assuming they last us 600 goes, and here, yeah, you can see my assumption is that they will last 2 years, which I think is on the low end. It does compare quite okay, even with so it's about 8 cents, even compared to the single-use plastic boxes. So those kind of nicer plastic boxes that some restaurants use. So it's really not, a complete pipe dream, pie in the sky program that we're testing out here. Okay. Okay. So we do have a $10 deposit for the containers, and we allocate approximately two boxes per customer. So, and then if you saw our prices, it more than covers any losses and admin costs related to getting more boxes. We haven't had any lost boxes. People are quite nice about returning them on time. Our official policy is that so we allocate two sets of containers for you, and we pick it up the following day when we deliver your meal. So we'll pick up the used container, clean that, and then bring it the following day. And if we don't get your container in time, we'll charge you a surcharge to use the biodegradable single-use option. So kind of just to disincentivize people from being a bit lazy and not bringing the containers. We haven't really had to enforce that too much. Usually people either have a good reason or, you know, it hasn't really been an issue. So we did think maybe container loss or something like that would be an issue. It hasn't really been an issue. And another thing we did that I think was quite useful was that we have an opt-in surcharge for the single-use packaging. So by default, you know, our lowest price is for the reusable packaging, which is a great way to motivate people to do the right thing. And yeah, and we've been doing this with up to 40 meals per day. And our kitchen team is about, let's say 5-ish people. So in addition to the dine-in customers and regular deliveries. So it's, and this includes all the washing, all the collecting and deliveries and all of that. So it's been manageable for sure. So we're looking forward to expanding on that. So the pandemic effects, I think, have been quite interesting. So on the one hand, I think in some establishments, definitely the interest in using reusable containers has decreased because of just general germophobia. I've had a lot of like just personal communications with certain coffee establishments about not getting rid of reusable cups, especially because a lot of the other items they're using are still reusable. So it's kind of an arbitrary decision. And you do see that some businesses are switching to single use to kind of, I guess, virtue signal their commitment to safety and hygiene. And I think another reason may be just because now that a lot of businesses are having to lay off staff, if there's like a dishwashing position that they can eliminate by just, you know, serving dining customers with disposables, that's a step that they take. But on the other hand, now that there's so much takeout, we saw quite a lot of growth during the kind of since the February lockdown. It's a great opportunity to test new ideas, try things out. And then, as we saw in the previous presentation, customers are actually now facing just how much waste is produced by this takeout culture. And yeah, and then this recycle group, that was a pandemic project of mine last year. You can see how many people actually do just treasure all these containers, and they wash them and they save them, and usually until they have to relocate or leave the country, and then they try to find a new home for them, like a cat, because yeah, it's I think people do see it as a resource, and it's really a shame not to be able to do something with them. And then another project that I was involved in last year was Mama's Kitchen, where the choice was to go with completely natural products, and this was for packaging, and this was for meals to donate to COVID-affected communities around Phnom Penh. And it was very, very beautiful, and just, you know, lotus and banana leaves, completely biodegradable. And the limitation here was high cost for washing all the leaves, and then for the packaging, that was quite a time-consuming step. And also, as already was mentioned, the limitation in the food types that could be packaged this way. And then some of the customer feedback wasn't very positive in terms of leakage and just kind of not being the most convenient way to eat the food. But yeah, definitely some opportunities there. yeah, we've been brainstorming a little bit about having some kind of third-party reusable container bank. So it would be something that is run that has several restaurants as the clients, and basically there's certain containers that are offered, and then this third-party entity takes care of the deposits, the collection, the washing, and then redistribution of all the clean containers. We're also working on our premises on the no plastic moving towards zero waste shop adjacent to the restaurant, which would be great for kind of giving us a chance to invest more time into negotiating with suppliers and educating suppliers and the public, and help us keep going and getting to zero waste. And I just added a little wish list for that I think, you know, people like us kind of dream about. So it would be amazing if there was some kind of independent, non-greenwashed certification process, so that people who are putting in real efforts into this could actually reap the benefits of it. And so that it's not just a matter of like putting a plant leaf on your packaging, but actually having concrete benefits to the environment. And collective efforts to educate the public and policymakers, especially from a business perspective, like how can this be, how can especially small businesses be supported in this? And this is, I think, this is why I put free as an important part of the certification. I mean, I'm sure there are amazing certification programs from ISO and other entities that are just not an option for small businesses. And definitely a free thing is enhanced collaboration between like-minded businesses, and I think we can do a lot together. So thank you for your attention and for this opportunity to share our experiences.
Thank you, Irina. I think it was very interesting to see the effort you put in your business and in the concept of getting rid of the waste and unnecessary packaging. I think we are a little bit short of time, and now we have to rush a little bit to our last speaker in this session. I would like to invite Kazuya Kubota, Country Director of Pizza for Peace. That is a new company in Cambodia, and he will introduce a very unique and special business philosophy. He will provide insights of the approach of a zero waste design application in their business model. So I would like to invite Kazuya to join us.
Hello, can you hear? Yeah, okay, let me share my screen just a moment, please. Everyone can see my screen? Okay, so thank you for giving this opportunity to introduce our restaurant. So today is I would like to explain about our business. Then overall what food business contribute to the zero waste future. Then based on our restaurant example, I would like to explain first is a sustainable activity in the Pizza for Peace, what we did in Vietnam. Also, second, for the purpose of zero waste concept. This concept is new for Cambodia. So I would like to introduce our zero waste operation and also our zero waste reports and the zero waste recycle process and the design and the product. So first of all, let me introduce our company. We started business in Vietnam in 2011. Now in Vietnam, we have total 24 restaurants, and this year is finally for the we could open for the first overseas store. Then sustainable is one of our brand value. In Vietnam, for example, we stopped using for the plastic. We install for the solar energy panel to produce for the electric by ourselves. Also, is a container returning program. Also, some restaurant has a compost. Also, we using for some waste of the whey to making for the original beer. Then also it's a waste audit for we investigated for the all restaurant waste in Vietnam. Then finally for the why we opened for the zero waste concept restaurant in Cambodia. For the other, everyone share for in Cambodia for the 3 tons of the waste produced per day. Also, it's a not enough recycle factory and not custom to sorting for the all waste, everything mixed together, then just throw away. Then now the population is explosion, increase for the takeaway, delivery for the single-use plastics. Then we have to do something. Then to open for the Cambodia, we would like to contribute something. Then we decide to open for zero waste concept. Then zero waste operation for what kind of the waste restaurant have for the, now we are investigate for the total nearly 20 kind of the types of the materials that our restaurants throw away. Then first of all, for the what we did for the, we put on the recycle room in the restaurant. Then this room is visible for the all of the customer. Basically for the restaurant to the, that's kind of the waste room for the located in the behind for the kitchen or not visible, but basically for the, we put on this recycle room in front of the entrance. So all of the customers can see for the, how we throw away for the old waste, how to recycle for the, this room. Then this room, what we are doing is for the first, we are sorting for the 20 kind of the waste here. For the, that is the layout of the recycle room for the compost, food waste, glass, can, paper, pizza dough, rubber, milk jug, steel, cupboard, plastic, and milk carton, aluminum, styrofoam, pet bottle, shell. Everything for the in the kitchen and the recycle room is we are sorting. Also, is all of the waste is we washed by ourselves, then put on the here. Then all plastics and package, yes, can bottle is washed before throwing away. Also, the food waste, we have a lot of the food waste. Not also together, we are sorting more shell, vegetable, and pizza dough or customers leftover. Then also it's a rubbish bin itself we made from the plastic recycled material. Our restaurant is not apply for the any single-use plastic for the customers area, and then but we apply for the recycled plastic material for the some several parts. Then but this rubbish bin is one of the recycled material. Then also put small compost bin in our restaurant for the daily basis for the we are doing for the this compost on here. Then next for the recycle process. We are the restaurant, so we cannot recycle by ourselves. So we try to get a lot of the corporate and corporated supplier and company and the individual person. Then we discuss for the before opening, then have the same vision and also they fully understand for our concept. Then we get for the corporation. Then especially for our waste, and we are the restaurant, so some example for the food waste I would like to introduce today. First is leftover. We are doing compost by ourselves, but our restaurant is average for the 70 kg per day for the food waste is happen. Then we can compost by around 10% only. So left and remaining food waste for the we cooperated with Rich, then we send by ourselves for their compost at the Black Soldier Farm. Then we are giving to our waste for the Black Soldier kits. Then they are making for the compost. And the second example for the pizza dough, we are the pizza restaurant, so we are making a lot of the pizza. Also, our pizza is handmade, and we are making for the one by one for staff. So training is required a lot. Then during for the training period, also we had a lot of the food pizza waste. Then this pizza waste is we collaborated with a cricket company. So we sent to them for this pizza dough. Then they are making for the dry to change for the powder. Then this powder for the put on the cricket feed. Then this cricket for the now it's changed for the snack or some protein. Then it's change for the waste to foods. Then third is an example for the excellence for the basically for the we using for the shell for the crab and the crab. This kind of the shell for the we cannot compostable. So we are bought to the crushing machine. Then we are making for the powder for the in our restaurant. Then this powder for the we send to the excellent cage-free farm. Then giving to the chickens feed. Then this chicken and the chicken is having for the our crushed shell. Then making for the egg. Then we get for this egg from the excellent to making for the our and pasta. Then what we would like to achieve through for this project for the eco-circular system in the restaurant. For example, this egg is from the crumb pasta transformed to the carbonara. This process is connected from the waste to new food. Also, is the pizza dough is a cricket in Vietnam for the we are serving for the cricket burger. This is also one of the eco-circular system from the waste to another new dish. Then also is our vegetable is also same. We are after making for the dry, giving to the tilapia is fish to feed. Then now we try to develop to this fish recipe into Cambodia. Then show to the one of the eco-circular system. Also the lime is our organic lime is after making for the juice for the peel the skins we are peeled by ourselves. Then after drying we are serving for the zero waste herb tea. This kind of the program and the project for that we try to increase for the truth for the zero waste concept. Then next for the zero waste recycle report. We did for the 2 times for the waste audit. First is the end of July. This is for the number of our recycle percentage. This time is just restaurant is open for the not so much busy for the 1 week for the this number for the we are recycle. Total 68 kg and 86% against for the total amount of the waste. Then finally for the last weeks in the end of the August, we are 1 week's total 393 kg for the total waste. Then we can recycle, we can recycle for the around 97%. Then yes, total, sorry, 402.9 kg waste, then 393.5 kg for the we are recycling or reuse or something for the change. Then this number for the we try to achieve for the 99% within this year. Yes, this is for the amount, especially for the most of the part is the food waste. So then next is the glass, then plastic and pizza dough and the shell, paper, steel and other. This is for the percentage of our waste. Then next, zero waste design and the products. Basically for the way to use for our restaurant, we do like to show for the zero waste is a sustainable concept is cool for the Cambodian person. Then to inform for the customer directly for the not only operation is how short our zero waste concept is very important. So for example, for the, this is for the, our restaurant design for the around pizza oven. So first, there are so many parts we apply for the recycled material. For example, for the cutlery box, it's using for the recycled plastic material. Napkin also is a wasted cloth from the factory. And the countertop is a glass terrazzo. We are using for the wasted glass, and after crossing put with concrete, then making for the tabletop. Also, bar chairs, this is for the plastic recycling material. And partition is rusty steel. We take it from the construction site to color for the them making for the partition. And the sofa's foundation, this brick is 60% mixed with a wasted single-use mask or plastic to making for the concrete brick. Also, the package box is we using for the reclaimed wood from the after demolishing for the old house for the apply for that reclaimed wood for the customer luggage box. Then for the finally for the in this restaurant design for the we recycle for the more than 3 ton total 3,065 kg recycled plastic material for the recycled plastics we use for this restaurant. Also, is around 300 kg for wasted woods. All the wood is applied for the floor and some small products. Also, around 200 empty bottles for the apply for the countertop. Then also is our restaurant for the compostable package for the 85% like this. Then this is for the more small products for the which customer can see in our restaurant. For example, our apron for the this is for the also denim and cloth is the wasted material for the from the factory. This is for the cutlery box and bill folder. This is for the also wasted leather from the factory for the we transform to the our bill folder. And trolley cover and takeaway box and the pizza server and yes, customer box, everything for the we apply for the recycled material following for the zero waste concepts. Then and I do like to introduce for the one of the program of the our pizza takeaway bag. Basically for the we using a lot of the flour for the pizza restaurant. Then we are thinking for this flour bags how we can apply for how we can recycle. Then now I'm thinking for the we don't have any goods for the takeaway bag. Then we apply for the takeaway bag from this flour bags. Then we not offering for the delivery now for the to ask to the customer to bring our restaurant easily for the we are making for the folding types. Then we are selling for this pizza box for the customer. Then if customer bring to this pizza box in our restaurant to for the takeaway order, one pizza order we give to the customer for the free string cheese. Then if customer order the 3 pizza with this takeaway box for the we give to the 1 mozzarella cheese for the customer. Then more this price for the mozzarella cheese we are selling for the $4. So if customer buy for the one time for this pizza box, then bring to this box for the customer or can get for the cheese is free. Then more customer can also repeat it to the again for the more unlimited we offering for the free cheese for the if customer brings to this pizza bag. Then this also is the pizza bag we cooperated with only one planet and also the Friends International for the we donated for the $1 from this sales. Then also we do like to contribute to the Cambodia more tools for our zero waste projects.
We have another 2 minutes for your presentation. Maybe we are running out of time, so maybe you can have another 2 minutes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yep. So then this is for the pizza server for our concept, our vision is to make survive smile for peace. So to short for the peace, to lose for the waste, for the way using for the empty pallet for the making for the pizza server. Then but basically pallet kills the people, but we plan to use for the pallet at the pizza server. Then change for the kill, change for the sharing for the happiness, truth for the our product. Then finally, for the construction design, we can apply for around 58% for the recycled material. Then customer products for the plates or drone or some small tool for the 75.6%. We apply for the following for our concept. Then, yep, this is for the QR code, our zero waste journey. For the more detail for a corporate supplier or our product, which we introduce for this linked. Yep, sorry, should I explain for the very quickly for the just for the limited time for the thank you so much for the hearing for my presentation. Yep.
Thank you so much, Kazuya. It was very interesting, and I could see from the chat there already many comments and many questions about your concept. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, I would like to invite you to the question and answer session. We would encourage you to address your questions directly and live to the speakers. I know there has been already a lively chat all the time during the session this morning. Now that is a chance for you to raise any questions. So are there any participants who would like to engage with our speakers?
Well, maybe I can make a start. I have a question to Irina. I think this is a wonderful concept of having a meal plan where you get package-free food. So could you maybe share with the audience how to sign up for this plan via your Facebook page? Or I think personally I'm considering to actually do that. And I've eaten in your restaurant. It is very good food, I have to add. Maybe you could share that with us, how to sign up for the meal plan. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Wow, thank you for the free advertising. Yeah, you can just message us on Facebook. That's the easiest. And then we have a Google form. Or you can just look at the menu, tell us what you want, or we have a Google form if you want to pick and choose what you want on different days. We offer like 2 different options on each day. That's Facebook. Facebook is always the answer. Glad you liked it.
Sandy, there's one more question about the restaurant bill you showed us, and the surcharge for packaging. Now the comment is that actually, it seems more a cost recovery for the restaurant, when they charge additionally. That's why some customers are reluctant to accept these, because it seems not transparent. What is your idea that can be how that can be improved?
I'm not sure what your question about the transparency was, your comment.
They are charging additional fee for packaging or eco fee, but actually we don't know how the money is used. Do they really support the environment, or is it just, to cover the additional expenses for the packaging?
I mean, as Irina showed, I mean, the single-use takeaway packaging that is one of my products, it's quite expensive. It can be 4 to 5 times more than a styrofoam package, than a plastic package. And that adds significantly to a restaurant's cost. And that has been a barrier to a lot of places using them. And what we were trying to demonstrate is that a certain portion of the population, at least, is willing to pay a surcharge if they know they are not getting plastic. The receipt I showed, they are very transparent with their customers about it. And they just do a flat 50-cent fee per bill. And I've since spoken to other places that I've learned are doing it as well. But the main thing is when you're getting something in exchange for that, and if you can look at it and see that it's actually environmental, it's transparent in what you're getting. If you're getting a 50-cent charge and getting plastic delivered, then there's a problem, obviously. But
so the key again is communication. I think that was also a point today, you know, that we have to communicate, that the business has to communicate and raise awareness and also educate the customers.
Exactly. And I think, yeah, the general public, I think, is becoming more aware that certain options are, like I said, add a significant cost to their bottom line. And right now is not a good time, we know, in the F&B industry, and everybody's struggling to make it. So to me, that is an apparent choice. But if a customer had a choice to say, yes, I will do this, I'm happy to pay 50 cents or whatever it is, then yeah, that's just a first step. But you know, some places just say that's all I'm using and there's going to be a surcharge. And as long as the customers understand that, they're usually fine. I'm surprised at how little kickback or negative feedback the places that do this have said they've received.
Okay, thank you. We have another question, yeah, for Pizza for Peace, Kazuya. The question is, you have now opened the first restaurant in Cambodia, isn't it?
Yes, it's correct. Yep.
Yes. What challenges are you facing right now? Because you recycle up to 20 different types of material, you know. What challenges do you face?
And basically for the first is the resource for the after closing for the restaurant to sorting work takes around 1 hour or 2 hours. Now with our staff is trying to do their effort, do their best. So, but actually for that work, we need to optimize or thinking for how we can sorting or reduce for during for the operation period. That is still our difficulty. And the second for the, of course, now if we throw away all of the waste for the together, the cost is zero. But basically now we are hiring for our driver to send to the compost company or a pizza, the cricket company. That cost is a bit rather higher than of course the operation. But of course that is very important and the process in Cambodia. So then also we do like to inform more about for the waste management for the customers. So we try to do, but still that's operation is we need to optimize more. Yeah. Yes.
Another point is whether you share your concept, and whether you provide seminars or information online, because also some other participants are interested, you know, in the overall concept, because it looks very holistic and comprehensive.
Thank you so much.
Do you share your idea and your philosophy?
For the concept of the store, for the especially in the Cambodia or total for the company, for the
overall, I guess. And of course, particularly then later on also for Cambodia.
Okay. So basically for our restaurant concept is depends on the store. We change it a bit. Also in Vietnam now 25 store, but each store's designs for we apply different design and with different designer. Then based on the location, the concept is a bit change. But our brand's value for we have a 4 message: authenticity and sustainability, humanity, and sharing. All of the concept is following for our brand message. Then zero waste is also why we apply for the zero waste is we do like to reinforce more sustainable message to considering in the future plan. Then in Cambodia, why we apply this concept for compared with Vietnam, I feel there is so many good person meaning for taking care for the environment, for also working with these fields. And then I also meet a lot of the person in Cambodia. Then I feel Cambodia has a potential to apply for the zero waste concept. Then surely in future, this is for the important week to succeed. That is the behind reason we apply for this concept in Cambodia. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
For Jérôme, there's one point regarding behavior change. Yeah, you talked about the awareness campaign, yeah, at schools and at the markets. How long will it take for the Cambodian citizens, you know, to change their behavior until they understand the concept of recycling and waste reduction? What do you think? And is it easier at schools to work at schools or at the markets?
I would say 20 years. Not only Cambodia, the entire world. I mean, you know, when I was a kid, there was no recycling where I was living from. It took a very, very long time to establish the processes. So it's a very, very long process. Obviously, the kids learn quicker, and then they shame their parents into doing it, which is why it's important to start at schools. But yeah, I think it's people learn progressively. They also have to have the options to make it easy for them. So at the moment, if you go to the market, if you buy meat, if you buy fish, it's not that easy to have an alternative. I mean, I was actually in Europe there for the summer, and when you go to the fish market, you walk out with 10 plastic bags. So it's not that different. You know, you need the education, you need the mentality to change, but you also need the alternatives. And in Cambodia, in the you know, maybe in the city center in Phnom Penh, in the restaurants, it's a good place to start. If you go to the more the more local town, the more rural areas, I think it's longer. I think it's also very linked to hygiene, as it was mentioned before. So if you go to a regular street restaurant where you get your meal for 5,000 real, you always get the plates, you get the cutlery, but always they never give you a glass. They always give you a disposable plastic cup. And it's linked to the people fearing that the glass won't be clean enough to drink their water. So therefore the customer expect a plastic glass and disposable plastic glass, and they get it. So as you know, it will also, and also people have other priorities. A lot of people struggle to make ends meet. That they don't make that much money. So obviously, environmental concerns is lower on the priority list. So as the country develops, as hygiene progresses, the quality of water progresses, mentality will progressively change. But it's, from my point of view, it's a very long-term, ongoing process anywhere around the world. Because if you look at Europeans, they actually generate more waste than Cambodians do. So yeah, a very long-term, ongoing process, starting with schools is my answer. Thank you.
Yes, thanks. But that's why we have these great summit here and this platform to meet and exchange our ideas. One last question to Irina. Your restaurant seems to be quite popular. Yeah, I mean, I heard a lot about your delicious food, but people are also interested in the food container, the metal one. Can you explain again the concept, or is there an idea to cooperate with other restaurants to use the same containers? Can you elaborate on these again? And are the containers for sale as well?
Yeah, the containers that we're using at the moment for our meal plan, they're widely available. Like I said, at Orosai Market, you can get them really cheap. Or, you know, if you can order them online. Even at the grocery stores, you can get fancier ones. There are a lot of options. For us, we went for this kind of like mid-range, mid-quality one, because we wanted to have enough that we can, we didn't want to buy a type that then we wouldn't be able to buy more of, and then they won't match. So for our process, we had to make sure it was a common one we could keep buying more of, and the sections were interchangeable and so on. The slide that I had as a future project, which is something, you know, that would just be interesting to be involved in. If there's anybody else that wants to take this idea and run away with it and just kind of serve it back to us on a silver platter, that would also be amazing. But just it's kind of at the brainstorming stage at this point. So let's say, you know, there are like 4 different sizes of containers that would accommodate 90% of dishes that, let's say, a group of 5 trial restaurants normally produce. And then, so I'm planning to order a few just to try it out with some friends that also have small restaurants, you know, who can be a bit more flexible, and just see how it goes. Because we actually had we had one customer from the meal plan who was asking me, because she orders from us from Monday to Friday when we offer the meal plan, and she's like, but what do I do on the weekends? I don't want to produce trash on the weekends, help me. So yeah, so there, I mean, there are like we've kind of demonstrated, you know, people take deposits seriously, people take, we haven't had any issues with like getting nasty moldy containers back, like people rinse them out. It's, you know, it's not for everybody, you know, obviously, but I think it's something that can be definitely run as kind of a proof of concept and then taken from there. You know, it's a hard idea to sell to a business that's maybe just, you know, like, well, we just make noodles, you know, like what is this thing you're trying to get us to do? But if there's something to demonstrate, you know, which is what I love about Kazu's place, it's such a great like demo, you know, it's such a beautiful space, and you can see how everything is done and how everything is implemented. So yeah, so hopefully this kind of container bank, we can at least show how, you know, learn some things from it and show people how it can be done or what not to do.
Yes. Unfortunately, we are running out of time already. You know, the next session will start soon, so there's nothing I can do. Then thank also speakers for their presentation and the audience for being present today. I think this session was very interesting. We had the range from the overall introduction of the waste situation in Cambodia. We had suggestions and product ideas for replacing the single-use plastic products. And we had the business side, the restaurants here, showing from a small up to a bigger scale what is possible and where all the customers can actually be engaged in the activities and be proactive in reducing the waste. I think that is a very great session, and I would like to thank again all the speakers for being present today and the audience for joining us. Please stay tuned. The next session will start soon, and I wish you all a great day. Thank you very much and have a good time. Thank you. Bye.